Welcome in, my fellow Pokemon trainers. Pokemonty here. Today I'm revealing an Ultra League team I had great success with, climbing over 100 ELO in one day. It also happened to be the last day before League rotation. Something I was picking up on during my battles this past week was the insane amount of water Pokemon. Whether it was on the lead or a safe switch, I was determined to punish those trainers, and I did so with Bellibolt. Not only is this Pokemon already bulky, it also learns the move Parabolic Charge, which gives it a 2/3 chance to increase its defense by one stage. I rounded the team out with the ever-popular and well-rounded Shadow Feraligatr on the safe switch, and in the back, powerful and very elusive Galarian Moltres. So let's jump into these battles and see what this team can do. Jumping into the first match, we lead Bellibolt into Dragalge. Now this is a negative lead for my fat light bulb, so I'm going to switch into Shadow Feraligatr. Opponent stays in, so you know what? I'm going to build up to the Ice Beam, and I'm going to bait with a Hydro Cannon. Now, of course, they make a nice catch on the Licky Licky. Now, Licky Licky isn't really an answer to Feraligatr, unless, of course, they're running Solar Beam. Feraligatr can put in so much work here, and just like that, I get to another Hydro Cannon. And look at the damage. Licky Licky is already in the red. They're pretty much forced to throw energy here, or I'm going to get to another move. Doesn't matter what they throw, I'm not shielding. They end up throwing a Body Slam, which does not KO and allows for another Hydro Cannon. Now this will either knock out or force a shield. So let's see what the opponent decides to do, and they let it go. But this unfortunately gives some farm to Dragalge. Now, I bring in Moltres. Both of us continuing the farm. And I come to a dilemma. Are they going to bait, or are they going to full send the Outrage? I say they're full sending, and I get baited. What a terrible feeling. And they're already at another move. At this point, I refuse to give up my second shield, and just like that, I get slapped with an Outrage. I continue to farm up as much as I possibly can, and I look to pick up the knockout with the Ancient Power. I fully expect my opponent is just going to let this go. And they do. And look at that, I get a boost. Poorly timed boost. Now, I'm only going to get to one move here, so I'm going to full send the Brave Bird. This is probably one of the easiest shields of that opponent's GBL career. They get the Incinerate down, and now it's all up to Bellibolt. Opponent massively over farming, allowing me to get to a Parabolic Charge, and watch this. My defense just got boosted. I think about it. I no shield, and they full send the Blast Burn. Both of us continuing the farm. They get to another move. Are they baiting or are they full sending? This will decide the game. I think about it. I shield, and they full send the Blast Burn. They get to another move. If my counting is right, this should be a resistant Thunder Punch, but will it knock out? The answer is no. Bellibolt lives on 1 HP, and with that, we take the game. Jumping into the second match, we lead Bellibolt into Shadow Dragonite. Excellent lead for us in this situation. I continue to farm up, and the opponent decides to stay in, so I'm going to throw a Parabolic Charge. So we're going to see what the opponent decides to do here. I'm assuming they would have to shield this, and they do. Both of us continuing the farm. Opponent should be throwing energy pretty soon here, and here they go. So I have a choice. They could be Dragon Clawing, or they could be Superpowering. I'm going to let it go. It is the Superpower. Almost knocks out Bellibolt. Barely gets to the Parabolic Charge onto a Hypno of all Pokemon. So this will still do a decent amount of damage. Now Hypno can learn Thunder Punch. So in this situation, my back line both are going to not really like seeing them. But Moltres, I think, can handle a Thunder Punch a little bit better. So I no shield. It does a pretty decent amount of damage. So I'm going to look to farm up here as much as I can and try to CMP tie them. And I believe that is a CMP tie. So this will pick up a knockout unless they decide to shield, which I don't think they will. They'll probably let this go, and they do. So let's see what the opponent decides to do. It brings back in Dragonite. I immediately throw the Ancient Power. This will knock out if they do not shield this. So we'll see what they decide to do. And they shield this. So basically in my situation here, I'm up 2 shields. I'm going to force them to throw energy because I would make it to a second Ancient Power. You know what? I'm going to shield here. They throw a Dragon Claw. And they bring in Golisopod. Trainer, no. Trainer, what are you doing? Golisopod is going to get smacked with the Brave Bird. And that one-shot Golisopod. Dragonite enters the field of play. I pivot into Feraligatr and up a shield. This is just a win. GG's. Hopping into the next match, we lead Bellibolt into Cresselia. Decent lead. So we decide to stay in here. We're going to farm up to 1 past the Parabolic Charge. We're going to throw some energy. This is not necessarily a resistant move to Cresselia, but it's not something you need to shield. So I imagine they're going to let it go, which they do. But we get another defense boost, and you'll see why that's important here. Cresselia is going to throw off some energy here. Ends up being the Future Sight. It does a reasonable amount of damage. I throw another Parabolic Charge as soon as I get it. Let's try to get that defense boost again. Parabolic Charge lands, and there is a second defense boost. Both of us continuing to farm. Cresselia throws some energy again. Another Future Sight's going to smack me here, but look at this. Does almost laughable damage. I'm going to farm up a little bit past Parabolic Charge. I'm going to go for the Zap Cannon. Now this will knock out if they do not shield this. So let's see if we can catch him by surprise. And it knocks out. In comes Giratina Altered. Now here, I'm not going to lie, I kind of panicked. Didn't know really what to do immediately. Now hindsight's 2020. So I unfortunately stay in here, farm up, get another defense boost, because why not at this point? I decide to throw another Parabolic Charge as they continue to farm. Again, this is not doing much damage, but it's doing valuable chip damage. They actually use a shield there, which surprises me. There was no reason to shield that whatsoever. I bring in Moltres. Now, they can't have Ancient Power, and that would be super effective damage on the Moltres. I call it, and it ends up being the Shadow Sneak. That means they're probably on Shadow Sneak Dragon Claw. They bring in Muck. I farm up to the Brave Bird, and I'm just going to full send it. Let's guarantee a shield or some damage. Big damage on the Muck. I bring in Shadow Feraligatr, and I look to farm up. Muck is looking to throw some energy here. It is the Dark Pulse. That hits Shadow Feraligatr pretty hard. I continue to farm up. I throw a Hydro Cannon. Muck is getting extremely low. This will KO unless they invest the shield. So we'll see what they decide to do here. They actually do shield, and they're about ready to throw off some more energy. So you know what? I'm going to let this go. I trust in 2 shield Galarian Moltres for the win. They bring in Giratina trying to snipe. I'm able to get off the Hydro Cannon. I don't think I'd be able to get the Ice Beam in that situation. Does some pretty good chip damage. I bring in Moltres. And I mean, at this point, I know they don't have Ancient Power, so I don't need to shield this. They throw a Dragon Claw. Doesn't do much damage at all. They're going to throw some more energy here. I decide just to shield, just to preserve some health, because honestly, you just never know. They throw another Dragon Claw, still up a shield, completely farm down Giratina. At this point, the opponent knows the game's over. That's a win. GG's. Hopping into the next match, we have Bellibolt into Chestnut. Now, Chestnut's going to be a problem Pokemon for this team, as you're going to see. I really don't have another counter for it other than Galarian Moltres, so I bring Galarian Moltres in. Now, unfortunately, Chestnut does have access to Thunder Punch. That's going to be super effective damage. I'm going to farm up to the Brave Bird, but I'm actually going to throw an Ancient Power bait. Unfortunately, that was a CMP tie that I do not win. Chestnut's going to throw some energy here. Another Thunder Punch. I'm going to no shield. It gets me deep into the red. Now, can I get a shield from Chestnut? They have to respect the Brave Bird, and they do. Continue to farm up. I'm just not going to make the Brave Bird. I have to settle for the Ancient Power. The question is, was my opponent counting? We're about to find out. And they were not. Down goes Galarian Moltres, unfortunately. 2-0 shield advantage. You think I'd be okay here, but I don't want to reveal I have Feraligatr just yet, so I bring in Bellibolt. Chestnut continuing to farm, and it looks like they're going to throw a superpower and dip. I no shield. It is superpower. It does okay damage. They swap into Muck. I swap into Shadow Feraligatr. Now, with a 2-0 shield advantage, Shadow Feraligatr has a dominating matchup here. I'm actually going to no shield the first, which is surely a Dark Pulse. Rocks Feraligatr, getting it deep into the yellow. I farm up 1 past 2 Hydro Cannons, and I'm going to throw my first. This will do substantial damage, probably putting Muck in the yellow as well, and it does. I throw immediately because I just want to get rid of this Pokemon. I don't want to allow him to get to another Dark Pulse because I want to save my shields the best I can for Chestnut. The only problem is Chestnut's going to be able to farm me down here pretty quick. So I decide to shield here because I think I can make the Ice Beam. They're going to throw a move, Thunder Punch. I keep farming, and I barely get to the Ice Beam. This will knock out Chestnut. Now, I just got to hope. Can Belly Bolt sweep in the back with a 1 shield advantage? And it can't. Golurk is just too powerful. There's nothing I can do. Not even going to throw a move. It's over. GG's. Jumping into the next match, Belly Bolt into Suicune. This is a pretty decent lead for Belly Bolt here. Electric into water, obviously. This is an Ice Fang Suicune. They're staying in. Now they switched to Malamar. I'm going to farm up to the Zap Cannon. I'm going to go ahead and throw the Zap Cannon. This will either command a shield or do a sizable chunk of damage. So we'll see what the opponent decides to do. They let it go. They're already in the red. I pivot into Shadow for Alligator, and I'm looking just for a farm down at this point. Now, unfortunately, they are going to get to back-to-back superpowers here. But because their attack dropped by throwing that first superpower, I do not have to shield this. I will survive this with like 1 HP. So we'll see here. I do survive with like 2 HP. They bring in Heliolisk. Now, unfortunately, I got KO'd by that move that snuck through. But I do get my Hydro Cannon off and actually gets a shield from them. So I really can't bring in Moltres in this situation just because of the electric typing, obviously. So I'm forced to bring in Belly Bolt. And they're going to go for a Breaking Swipe. And honestly, I'll just eat them up all day. And, of course, they get the attack drop because, as you know, it never happens for you. It always happens against you. They're going to throw another move. I'm just going to eat another Breaking Swipe. And they get another attack drop. So at this point, I have to switch out. And so I bring in Moltres. They farm up with Suicune. And honestly, I honestly forgot what kind of moves Suicune can have. So I just shield. It ends up being a Scald. I would have survived that. At this point, I'm just going to go for the Brave Bird. I need damage right now in the worst way possible. So I throw it, and I get them deep into the red, and I actually get the farm down here, which is excellent. Now they're going to bring in a Heliolisk, and thankfully I get to the Brave Bird. The Brave Bird will do substantial damage or grab the final shield. They let it go, and now we're both deep into the red. Moltres is knocked out. So let's see what happens here. They're going to throw the Breaking Swipe, looking for that attack debuff. And then right here, I get to a back-to-back Parabolic Charge. So I need to hope that somehow I win CMP, and this will KO. And, of course, I don't win CMP. I do get a defense boost. So can Belly Bolt survive this? The answer is no. And I lose the game. GG's. Next match, we got Golisopod on the lead. Now, this right here is a commanding, dominating matchup here for Belly Bolt. The opponent is actually staying in, and they're actually throwing some energy here as well. This will be an X-Scissor. It won't do really any meaningful damage. It hits about neutrally, and I'm going to fire back with a Parabolic Charge. Now, if the opponent does not shield this, this is super effective damage. The opponent actually lets it through, and I'm going for a farm down here. Now, the opponent will get one more move off, and again, I'm just not going to shield this. I don't need to. This will not KO me. They go for the Liquidation, and they do get a defense drop. The opponent decides to bring in Zygarde. I throw a couple Thunder Shocks, and here I misclicked. I meant to go into for Alligator, and I accidentally brought in Galarian Moltres. But that's okay, and you're going to see why. The opponent actually switches out of that matchup into their own for Alligator. Now, I'm just going to go for the Brave Bird. We're going to continue to farm. The for Alligator is continuing to farm up. Now, my defense is heavily lowered. I'm actually going to let this through. I barely survive it. I get to the Ancient Power. Let's see if the opponent was counting. Go throw my Ancient Power. And either they were not counting or they want to preserve health on the for Alligator. And this is okay, because guess what? They don't have any more shields left. I have stored energy on Belly Bolt, and I can just simply knock them out here. Goodbye, for Alligator. I bring in my own for Alligator, and this is a win. 2 shield flex. GG's. Next match. Oh, would you look at that? Another water lead. What did I tell you about this? Greninja on my screen. We're both going to farm up here, doing super effective damage to Greninja, and I'm not going to shield Belly Bolt here again. There's no reason to. Belly Bolt is a very tanky Pokemon. They fire off the Hydro Cannon. I'm still in the green, so I'm going to fire back the Parabolic Charge. This will do super effective damage if they don't shield this, so let's see what they decide to do. They do shield it, and my defense just got boosted as well.
So I'm going to continue to farm up. They try to make a catch, I guess, into Galarian Wheezing. I'm going to farm up, and I play to a CMP Tide. I do not win, and that's on me for not counting. Remember your counts, kids. They go through a Brutal Swing, gets me into the red, but I have a Zap Cannon loaded. And the Zap Cannon, as you're going to see here very quickly, does substantial damage. Look at that, already in the red. I'm going to farm up here as much as I possibly can, and I think I'm at the Parabolic Charge right now. I will get knocked out with this move, so I decide to shield this, and I'm going to stay switch into my Feraligatr. I'm looking for the Shadow Claw farm down, and I can't get it. The Wheezing survives on 1 HP, seriously. So I just let this go. I continue to farm, and here comes Tentacruel. Tentacruel normally would be a complete wall to Feraligatr's energy, but watch this. Shadow Claws plus Hydro Cannons. Look at this. First Hydro Cannon lands. I'm going to fire off another Hydro Cannon. And this Tentacruel is going to take some sizable damage here. They're already in the yellow, and I continue to farm up. I'm going to get to another Hydro Cannon unless they throw energy. So they're forced to throw energy, or I'm just going to straight up KO the Tentacruel. They hit me with the Scald. I bring in Galar Moltres now, and I'm looking for the farm down. Can I get the farm down this time? And of course I can. They always live on 1 HP, am I right? Let me know in the comments how you guys feel whenever that happens. So we're going to bring in Greninja. I am going to fire off the Ancient Power here and see if we can grab a shield. And they do shield. So now I have 1 shield left. Whatever they throw, I'm letting it go because I know I have a move. On Belly Bolt, they throw the Night Slash. I snipe with the Parabolic Charge, and this knocks out. Galar Wheezing, I farm down, and that's the game. GG's. Now let's jump into the other match. Couldn't possibly be a water. Oh, okay. I guess there's another water lead. So we have Feraligatr, and the opponent is staying in again. And I mean, you know, Belly Bolt, I decide to do something here. I decide to actually shield because I want to try to play this match out a little differently. So I farm up 1 past the Parabolic Charge, and I'm just going to throw my energy here, and I'm assuming I'm going to grab a shield back, which I do, and I get a defense boost. So now, when they throw a Hydro Cannon at me, I do not need to shield this. It's still going to hurt, but it's not going to do nearly as much damage as a full, you know, non-debuffed Hydro Cannon would do. So I get to another Parabolic Charge. I'm going to throw my energy again, and I get a second shield, and I get another defense boost. So right now, Trainer swaps out into Tentacruel. Oh, Trainer, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry what I'm about to do to you. This Zap Cannon is going to be launched from Belly Bolt, and that's going to one-shot. So goodbye, Tentacruel. Trainer's going to bring Feraligatr back in, and I'm not shielding this. Belly Bolt pulled his weight just fine. I'm going to let this go. And I bring in my own Feraligatr to neutralize their Feraligatr. I play to a CMP tie. I do not win that, so their attack stat must be higher. So I'm obviously not going to shield that, no reason to. So I farm up to 4, so I don't want to play to another CMP tie. This will knock out their Feraligatr. We're going to see what they have in the back. And they bring in a Greninja. I want everyone listening to understand something. The opponent does not understand that electric Pokemon exist in this world. This is a triple water team. So I throw my Hydro Cannon, which again is resistant, but that's okay. Greninja's going to throw a Night Slash, and that's going to KO me. And I have Galar Moltres now. And it doesn't matter what Greninja throws. I can tank any one move. I'm just going to let this go. And the opponent realizes it's over, and I win. GG's. Jumping into the next match, we lead into Dragonite, another Pokemon weak to electric. Opponent is staying in again. So I am going to farm up, and I'm going to throw the Parabolic Charge. That seems to be a theme in this video. So we're going to see what the opponent sides do. They shield. I get the defense boost, which is nice as well. They are continuing to farm. They're actually going to throw energy now, and I'm going to let this go to see how much damage this actually does. They Dragon Claw me. That's going to allow me to get to another Parabolic Charge. However, I lose a CMP tie. And this will KO me, so I am going to shield, and I am going to throw my Parabolic Charge again. And we're going to see what the opponent decides to do this time. And they double shield the Dragonite. Okay, so this actually looks very good for me. I make it to a third parabolic charge. Surely this is going to KO Dragonite, right? A Shadow Dragonite? It doesn't. I lose switch. I bring in Feraligatr. And yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. That is a lantern on the screen. A Pokemon that I thought was dead has rised up from the dead to beat me. And honestly, there's nothing I can do. I try to call the Surf Bait. That doesn't work. They full send the Thunderbolt, and that knocks me out. And so I'm at a dilemma here. What do I do? I need to just probably top left, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play this out, see what happens. And here I shield because I expect they're going to full send the Thunderbolt again, and they bait me. That was the final nail in the coffin. And not only that, they snipe with Dragonite, hit me with a superpower that does some substantial damage. And at this point, I mean, it's over. They bring in a Drifblim. I get to back-to-back Ancient Powers. I just throw it because I just want to see what happens. I want to just play this match out because I had nothing better to do. And I try to make a catch, unsuccessful, and that's it. They knock me out. GG's. Jumping into the final match, we lead into the spicy Shadow Gengar. This is going to be a fun match. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to farm up, and there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to win the CMP tie over Shadow Gengar. But I still play to it because I'm an idiot. Shadow Gengar is going to throw his move. I no shield his Shadow Punch. I'm going to return fire with the Parabolic Charge. And I grab a shield, which is great, and I get defense boost. Trainer is still farming up, and they swap, and they catch on the Steelix. And now that's on me. I should have looked at the top right of my screen to see the typing before throwing that move. Now I switch into Shadow Feraligatr. I see they're not on Thunderfang, so that allows Shadow Feraligatr to have a dominant matchup. They are going to throw their move. It's going to be a Breaking Swipe. I'm going to continue to farm. No debuff happens, which is great. I am at 2 Hydro Cannons. I'm going to throw my first Hydro Cannon. Does substantial damage, gets them deep into the red. And at this point, I decide not to shield. This is another Breaking Swipe. They try to snipe me with Shadow Gengar. I'm going to return fire with the Hydro Cannon. This will grab the final shield, and I just go into Galar Moltres and look at the sucker punches go. My goodness. And I don't need to shield this. It's a Shadow Punch. I farm down Shadow Gengar, and up 2 shields to nothing. The opponent just decides they don't want to play anymore. GG's.
Overall, I had a lot of fun running this team. Definitely a team I would recommend at least at this point in the season. Bellybolt is a wonderful anti-meta pick. People right now are just disrespecting electric types like crazy, so I would take advantage of that while you can. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm just starting on my YouTube journey, and I'm excited to see where it takes me. Thanks again. Pokemonty out.